travel, I got off the grid and learnt about me. Hello everyone, welcome to Signposts for Living with Dr. Kirsten Hunter, and we have gorgeous Robyn here, Robyn Drayton. Hello, gorgeous.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Can I just say, everyone, that the seed of this podcast was first planted for me when we met in Alice Springs.
We did.
Yeah. We met
a very colourful lady called Franciose.
Yes, exquisite, isn't she?
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
Absolutely. I wonder if she's always been that colourful.
I think so.
Yeah.
And it's multiple colours in her hair.
It is. So we met in Alice Springs. What was that, August this year?
Yeah, it was. Last year.
Last year, right. And for people not from Australia, Alice Springs is smack in the middle of Australia, and it's a very isolated spot with a lot of colour itself. And you told me a story about being very isolated in your travel. And just to jump forward, everyone, gorgeous Robyn has been travelling and has come and visited us here in little Toowoomba in Queensland, and now we have the opportunity to actually do this podcast, which is great.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah, and I said to you, how long have you been travelling? And I thought it was maybe a year and a half, and no, how long is it?
5.5 years.
Five and a half.
Moving on to 6, yeah.
Yeah, heading towards 6, travelling all around Australia.
Yep, solo with a dog and a caravan. So a girl, a dog and a caravan.
Isn't it? It's wicked. It's wonderful. Yeah. And so we'll come back to how that came to be, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the story you told me in Alice Springs about being so isolated in your travel, it blew me away. Let's start there. Can you tell me where you were, what was happening, what it was like for you?
Okay, it was the first year of being on the road, and I set off originally just to go around Australia for a year, so it wasn't intended to go nearly 6 plus.
When you're onto a good thing, you stick with it, right?
You do. It's amazing lifestyle. But I was on the Udadada track, which is a reasonably remote track.
So where is that for everyone?
That follows basically from South Australia right through to the border of Northern Territory.
Really?
Yeah, so the top end of South Australia.
So we're going straight through the middle of Australia.
Yeah, and it follows the old Gan railway line. So
yep.
It's really quite an interesting trip, and it's all dirt and gravel and corrugation and bull dust and everything else, and you can go days without seeing another tourist or another person, and until you get to the next little town. But I decided to pull up because I do a lot of free camping. So I pulled up in this area and I went off the road, but enough that I could just see the main road. And I thought you play little games with yourself when you're by yourself, and besides going for walks and so forth. But I thought, I'll just pull up here and just, I'll see how long it takes before I see another person.
Can you give us a sense of what you could see, what the landscape was?
The landscape was red dirt. I was near a dry riverbed. I had a little fire going, not a short, bushy sort of trees. It's quite vast, actually. There's no hills. It's kind of the desert, really.
I think a lot of people in Australia don't comprehend what it's like in such an isolated place, let alone people in other countries where it's more, built up. But I think of it as being kind of on the moon.
Yes. Well, there was one place where I actually indicated to my kids that I was thinking I was on the moon because there was all this gypsum on the ground, and it was shining with the morning sun. And again, another isolated area that I was travelling through, and I'd accidentally hit the panic button on the mobile phone, the triple O sort of call. And next minute I got reception, and all 3 boys rang me.
Oh.
So I know that works.
Okay, so there's the landscape.
Yeah.
We're talking just
remote,
extremely remote.
Yeah, and cattle stations out there are like hundreds of thousands of acres, or of size. So you really those people that live out there are an amazing people.
Yeah,
not alone people like ourselves who just
they need helicopters to be able to get around.
Yeah. So this one particular place, I pulled up and I thought I'll sit here and wait and see when I see the next car or, person or something. And after 3 days, I decided, no, I'm bored. I'll keep going.
Really? 3 days
and
of not another soul?
Yeah. But I found out later that I had a friend who was a policeman in Alice Springs.
Yeah.
And this foreign lady went missing, and she had plenty of water, she had phone reception, but she went missing, and they went looking for her, and they actually found her dead. And for whatever reason. But there was also another story that he told me where this man got bitten by a snake, and he knew that he wasn't going to make it because he was so remote. And he wrote a letter to his family.
Oh, my gosh.
And they found him a month and a half later.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So I always tell everybody, and I have one myself, a safety beacon, a land-based safety beacon. I carry a snake bandage, which are a very special bandage. They have a line through them or a square, so you know the tension to put on, if you do get bitten. But I also, that's, a helpful thing for if you're travelling, you've got a sprain or you hurt yourself or cut or whatever. So they stay in my backpack when I go hiking or, driving.
So you're very responsible when you are that isolated.
I think so. You have to be.
You have to be.
And water's very precious. So you do need to have plenty of water and, some food.
Did that freak you out a bit, hearing about these people who died because they were so isolated and that was what you were doing?
Luckily, it was after that. But yeah, it brings you back to earth of what possibly can happen, and I think you just got to be sensible. There's places where I've gone and I know I'm going possibly isolation, and you can do things like go to the nearest police station, and you can put your name down and say, look, I'm heading off as as a couple or a solo person. I'm heading in this direction or that road. I'm expected to take 2 weeks to get there, and then you report at the next police station, and you can do things like that. Also, just prior to crossing over you just cross over into the Northern Territory. There's, I think it's called Lambert's End or something like that, and it's the middle of Australia.
There you go, and smack in the middle.
It is, and it's again very isolated. Lots of red dirt. People, you can get a couple of flat tyres and you can be stuck. There's a number of reasons why you can be, in trouble. And the local pub takes your name.
Really?
And they say what time you expected to be home. So like when I did that, I said I'll be home by 5 at the pub, and then you've got to go in and you tick your name off, and if you don't, they get a search party and they go looking for you.
Oh, do you mean when you're staying at the pub, they want to know when you're coming back to the pub?
Yes.
Right.
So when you're going out to four-wheel driving and sightseeing and so forth, because it's so remote, that particular pub takes people's names, because it has people who have gone missing, because that goes sort of into the I've forgotten the name of the road. And
that lady who died, who had food and water, what happened?
They don't know. Yeah, there would have been a post-mortem on that one. But, yeah, she was sitting underneath the tree, and it was just a very strange, thing, whether she got bitten by a snake or had a heart attack. She was only a young girl, though, but I don't know the reasons.
Spider.
Yeah, anything, yeah.
I'd be most scared of a cassowary.
Well, they're not in the middle of Australia, but they can be dangerous.
Everyone cassowaries are up in Queensland, Upper Queensland, and they're just crazy-ass birds that are extremely aggressive.
I'm more frightened of crocodiles.
Yeah,
because I spend a lot of my time up on the top end.
That's completely valid. Yeah. So can you... I realise that I've done a lot of travelling, but it's always been with people or with people around me. So even if I'm on my own in Europe, for example, I'm obviously still in society. I haven't actually been away from another person for an extended period of time. Just never. So what's that like? What goes on in your head? What's it like?
Oh, you go through lots of different emotions over the period of time. I know the first year was probably the hardest. I had just finished a relationship which was domestic violence, so that was something that I was, dealing with. Needing
a lot of healing time.
Yeah, and so in some ways the remoteness helped because you really found an inner depth of you that you wouldn't normally find. A lot of people say, I like my own company, but it's a little bit of a word that a lot of people use, and they might sort of see people, once a day or, every couple of days they might see someone. So to go where you're not seeing someone for weeks on end, you do find an inner strength in yourself. And find out about yourself a lot more.
And you've had that weeks on end?
Yes, yeah, and I love it. Yeah, but you do get lonely. There is emotions that, change daily. And I think because I was travelling and there's so much sightseeing to do and so much beauty, and I do a lot of photography, that fulfills those little gaps of, but there's times where you get scared. You might be somewhere and you might hear a vehicle, or it might be a dingo or something, and of course, you've got to be careful of those sort of things. You might sleep with one eye and one ear open at times, and your mind plays tricks on you. Yeah. So you do have to.
What is that noise? And
just
who's around me?
And at night time, and you hear a different sound or something, you think, oh, what's that? I hope because you are by yourself. Fortunately for me, because I'm in a caravan, and I didn't find this out too many years later, that people automatically assume that I'm a couple.
I think that's valid, particularly since it's not a tiny one. It's actually a significant caravan.
Yeah, well, mine's an 18-footer, so it's big size. Plus, I pull it with a D-Max, so that's quite a long vehicle. So I'm pretty much the length of a coach.
There you go.
I'm hooked up.
Puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
So then people assume you're a couple, so you feel safer in them. That's very important.
And I get a lot of backpackers. They'll park next to you, and I went, I'm by myself too. But they, just feel safer, with the little whiz-bangers that come through.
There you go. And when you go away for a couple of weeks on your own, why is that? Is it because where you're travelling is just a very remote location, or...?
It's not deliberate that I go remote just for me. Right. I do it for the scenery. Yeah, and the experience. And I just fell in love with like WA, Northern Territory, where that remoteness, that red dirt, once it gets in your fingernails, you just fall in love with it, and it's just something special. The sunsets are amazing, the sunrises, the colours, the blue sky and the red earth. Yeah, they're just amazing colours to photograph, and like a lot of people say, oh, there's nothing in a desert. There's heaps of things in a desert.
Well, it's very otherworld, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
I mean, I've only had a tiny little tourist visit to Alice and surrounding areas and Uluru, etc. But the colours are just so incredibly bold, aren't they? The bold blue sky, the bold red earth.
Yes.
It's just there's a pulse.
Yes,
it's extraordinary,
and it's really hard to describe because I think it's something you do need to experience and capture for yourself. Yeah.
I think it actually opens your heart. It's an experience.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and it's just a beautiful thing, and it just makes you feel alive and appreciate what we have in life. Because life can be pretty precious, particularly when you're out remote and things could go wrong, and you try to avoid those things, of course, but that's life. Yeah.
So if we had the Rob from 5.5, 6 years ago versus you now, what's that been like in learning about yourself?
Look, I've always been a strong, independent person.
Hell yeah. We'll get back into that.
Yeah, even when I had my business.
Yeah.
So it's always been there.
Yeah.
So, look, you grow in different ways. It's probably an area, particularly with the domestic violence sort of thing, that is not something that was planned in my life.
No.
But it makes you stronger. Things happen for a reason, and you just got to find that reason.
I mean, I imagine you've always been very self-sufficient, but this is a whole new level, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think the more prepared you are, the better. I've even learned a great deal from when I first set off in, the 12th of February 2018 to what it is now, and I've added things to my caravan, because I've fallen in love with the top end. So I've put fans in. That diesel heater's come in handy lately.
Yeah, it's
because
cold
it's
here.
Very cold here. There's things that I've adjusted, and there's things that are broken that I've had to fix and things like that.
Well, when we were in Alice and we met, you were doing something mechanical, and I said to you, of course I don't remember what that is because I'm not mechanical, and I said, wow, that's amazing, how do you know, and have you done this before? And you said, hell no, I don't know, I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm figuring it out. And I loved your attitude of, well, let's just figure that out. So you're so mechanical, you're so hands-on, you're so practical. It's wonderful.
Well, I was underneath the car yesterday. fixing something. I have a which is something else I suggest to people is I have a brand called Tyre Dog, but there's a number of brands out there, and they're a monitoring system for your tyres. So because with the caravan, I've got dual wheels, so I've got 8 tyres. And when you're doing a lot of corrugation, a lot of dirt, you don't, if you have a flat, you don't want to be having a problem where you might roll the caravan or do extra damage. So those monitoring systems are quite handy to keep an eye on your tyre pressure as well. So because you can't feel it if you've got a flat tyre in your caravan until it's too late.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, there you go.
And I have had my problems over the years. I've broken D-shackles on axles in remoteness.
That sounds important.
Yeah. Well, luckily it was a funny thing. I was out at Marble Bar, which is it's in WA, and it's quite remote. And I was
actually Western Australia.
It's Western Australia, yeah. And I went out to this gorge. Yeah. And there was quite a few people out there and parked there for a couple of days, and then I was heading back into Marble Bar to go to the races. And I always wind my windows down early in the morning when I take off, just to listen to the noise of the car and the caravan to see anything. And luckily I had my windows down and I hear this bang, and I went, uh-oh, this is not good. Quickly stopped, thinking it's a tyre. So I walked around, and I was heading into Marble Bar, so it was a remote road.
Right.
So I walked around, the tyres were fine. I went, okay, this is a bit more serious. So I got underneath the car and the caravan and noticed that the axle's sort of like on the ground.
That's horrendous.
So I went, oops. So I didn't panic. I knew there was people nearby, so it wasn't like I was totally remote.
Yeah.
I mean, you're remote, but you've got people around, so I thought someone's going to come past eventually. So I just pulled up, or I was already pulled up, put the awning out, got a book, a chair, and just waited. And I think about 2 hours went past before someone came.
That says how isolated you were.
And there wasn't a tree in sight. I was in literal desert. I could see the trees where I was coming from, but it was about 4 or 5 kilometres away.
Wow.
And I thought, and one of the things that it's really important when you're travelling is if you're in remote areas, you do not leave your vehicle.
Yeah.
So even though I knew there were people down the road, I thought, well, they're going to come past eventually.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just sat there with a book, and about 2 hours later, someone came past and I said, "Are you all right?" And I went, I've broken the D-shackle that's holding the suspension up. And they said, I just happen to have a D-shackle.
You're joking.
So funny. They would come from Perth, and so he said, but I've only got one bolt. About 5 minutes later, another car pulled up, and they said, "Oh, are you right?" And I said, "Well, this is what's happened, and we need another bolt." And he says, "Oh, yeah, I've got an ice cream full of bolts and nuts and things." So I'm going through, scrambling through it, and between the three of us with jacks, we hooked up the caravan, got some wire, tied that on.
Don't you think Australians are known for resourcefulness?
Yeah, and the help that you get.
Yeah, it's a community.
These are strangers, and we're all on the one journey. So, and that was funny. So I did make it in, and because on the way home, or going into Marble Bar, of course, I'm looking into the afternoon sun, the kangaroos are ready to come out, so it was a very slow drive back into Marble Bar. And then I got there, and not thinking the showground would be open. And it was, so I went in, and there was a guy there that was directing people, and I think it was his most important job for the whole entire year. Yeah. And he told me I had to move because I was in the wrong spot. And so I went to move, and next minute I hear clunk, and I went, okay, that's a D-shackle again.
Oh, no.
And so I rang the tow truck and organised the tow truck for the Monday because I wanted to go to the races.
And did the guy just have to cope with you in park there?
Yeah.
Oh, Rob wins. Oh, that's gorgeous.
It's funny, but there's some amazing stories. Yeah.
And let's go back a bit. We had a lovely dinner last night.
Yes, thank you very much.
It was great. John cooked. It was beautiful.
Yes.
And you brought the wine. And not only did you bring the wine, but your name was on the bottle.
Yes.
So your history is owning a winery in the Hunter Valley, which sounds just dreamy. And you've gone from that to travelling. Can you give us a quick run through? Because that's really interesting. How you change your lifestyle, your whole approach to what you're doing with your day.
Yeah, it's a very different lifestyle to what I had when I had the business. Yes, I used to own Robyn Drayton wines in the Hunter Valley.
There you go.
I'm 5th generation of the Drayton family.
There you go.
And when I was here in Toowoomba, I went looking for fuel and this Drayton suburb came up. I didn't realise. So I had a good chat to the National Trust people who own the building. So yeah, with the business, it was obviously grapes and
hang on, and
wine.
didn't you find something with your family's name on it?
I did. The lady said, "Oh, come into the kitchen. We've got some Drayton bottles sitting all around in the kitchen at this old inn." And I said, "Oh yeah, that's the stoneware crock." I said, "My dad used to make the wine that went into those crocks." And so she turned it around and I said, "Yeah, that's my brother, that's my cousin."
Crazy.
So they were blown away.
This is the Bull's Head Inn in Toowoomba, by the way, if you want to go check it out. It's a very cool historical place.
It is.
Sorry, so you needed to obviously wrap up your winery.
Yeah, so my parents were killed in a plane crash and unfortunately their bodies were never recovered. And that was in 1994. And then I took over the business from there, and I ran the business for 20 years as a single mum with 3 kids.
In an acute state of grief, horrendous.
At the beginning, yeah. And then you never get over that thing anyway. No. So it was not all, peaches and cream back in those days.
A lot of hard work.
Yeah, a lot of hard work. But I had wine on tap, so that helped. and
a wicked sense of humour and really good smarts.
Yeah, so I changed the business name from Reg Drayton, which was my late dad, to myself, and then did a new marketing. So the wine that you had last night, what I did, which is what a lot of small boutique wineries do, is name their wines after their family members. So you had my eldest son, the Justin Chardonnay, which was called the Cheeky Chardonnay. So
it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was nice.
Was beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
And tell me about how your head went into, hey, I'm going to go travel and I'm going to live in a caravan.
I'd had a caravan when the kids were small, and it was a little JK pop-up, and then I moved from there. So this is my 3rd caravan. So when I had that JK caravan, that was 30-odd years ago, or 25-odd years ago.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of single women with kids moving around in caravans even back then. I mean, these days there's lots of women, single women on the road. I remember, having to reverse. So I think the farming skills came into play because I used to sit there and get on the quad and the trailer and just reverse, which were 2 very difficult things to reverse, particularly with a quad, with a little box trailer.
Yeah.
And that's how I learnt my skills, I suppose. But then I also had a truck driver's licence, forklift licence, and all those things that you have when you have a business. So it was very full on.
Very impressive.
Yeah, so it all helps. So a little bit of the mechanical aspects came in from my farming years as well, which helps as well. Yeah, so
there you go.
So when I sold the business, bought another caravan, or swapped it over, and decided one day that I would go. I'd done a lot of travelling around overseas, and then I bought a house in Newcastle, and I had intentions of probably doing Australia, seeing a little bit of our own country. And, one day I poured a glass of wine, as you do, and I walked out the front veranda to watch the sunset, and something just hit me. I bursted into tears, and I don't know why, but just there was a calling to say, "You're ready, go."
Go. Were they happy tears? Were they
I think they
sad
were.
tears?
No, happy tears. And it was just the sunset, that beautiful curtain of colours that came through the trees, and it was just like, okay, I'm ready now. So
off you went.
So on the 12th of February 2018, set off, said goodbye to the boys because they weren't leaving home, so I did. And took off and said, see you in a year. And 5 years later, I came home.
Yeah. And what happened with the year mark? And also, you obviously have an absolute love affair, passion for the top part of Australia. Why did you know that would be your focus?
No,
right.
And also too, when I set off, because I've only got a semi-off-road caravan, I had no intentions of doing what I've ended up doing. So I've taken my caravan through the Udadada track, which was my first big adventure, which I mentioned earlier about that isolation. I've since done the Gibb River Road.
Where's that?
The Gibb River Road is in the top end of the WA, or Western Australia.
Yeah.
It's in the East Kimberleys, but it goes from east to west. So it's from Kununurra through to Broome, but it's the old road that was set up years ago.
So we've got gorges all around you, I'm guessing.
And it only gets maintained in the dry season, so there's a grader that comes through only twice a year. So it's very isolated. There is cattle country up there, but it's also a big thing for a lot of four-wheel drivers to do. And, yeah, I couldn't stop there. Of course, I had to go up to Columbaroo, which is at the very, very top. And I looked at the map and I looked at some photos and I went, oh, there's caravans up there. Yeah, I can do that. And I remember turning off to go up to Columbaroo, and the road was a graded corrugated road, really quite wide, so like a 4-lane highway.
Can you explain to people what that means? Graded corrugated.
It's a dirt road, gravel, rocky.
And it tends to go digga, 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 digga.
Yeah,
Does it?
The corrugation is quite bad, and it can do some huge damage to your vehicle.
But it does do that, doesn't it? It does this, like,
yeah,
digga, 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 which is quite...
It's bumpy.
It's bumpy.
Yeah, and the corrugation can vary depending on the width and the depth and so forth.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm travelling along and of course there's no reception, so you've got no, you're going by maps. There's no really GPS that works in this area.
Wow.
So I thought, yeah, it's the road, so I'm heading off. And then all of a sudden it stops.
The road stops.
The road stops and it's a dirt track. And I went, and of course I'm by myself, there's no reception. I went, my God.
And you've got paper maps.
Yes.
So you don't even have anything saying where you are.
Not really. I knew roughly where I was, but yeah, it's like it just stops. And I went, well, did I miss something? Did I miss a turn? And like you're sitting there and you're rewinding your brain, thinking, did I miss a turn? What is it? So I thought, well, I'll keep going. So I did, and then next minute I've got some river rock on the road. I'm going through gullies, and I've had to get out and move rocks so I could get the caravan through.
Wow.
But there was nowhere to turn around, so I can only go one way, and that's forward. And I thought, it has to be the road anyway. I am panicking, but and you've got no one to talk to. The dog's just looking at me and saying it's okay. And then all of a sudden, after it took me 2 days to get up there.
Wow.
And then when you get through this area, then all of a sudden it opens up again, and there's the little township, which and then from there I went through to Honeymoon Bay and stayed there for a couple of days, and it's all fishing. All men are up there fishing and so forth.
Did they look at you and go, what the hell? How did you get here?
Not really. There was other people there. I mean, they were amazed because I was by myself. But I remember talking to some of the guys up there, and I said, oh, how long are you up here for? And they said, oh, we come up for a couple of months. And I said, yeah, I can understand that. I said, it'll take you that amount of time to forget what the road's like before you go back. They just all look at you.
And, this is normal for them, obviously, or they at least knew what they were getting into.
Yeah, but, I didn't. But, yeah, amazing spot. But there are adventures that will stay in my mind forever.
And are people fishing there on the water mindful of crocodiles, I imagine? Yeah.
A lot of them have been doing it for years. But the local Indigenous man and his wife, who was a European lady, and they had them, I think, 2 or 3 little kids.
Yeah.
Blonde hair, blue eyes and olive skin. They were absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But I ended up going on a deep sea fishing tour with him. And that was really amazing too. And he took us out, and we went to the landscape around there is just stunning. And we caught the bait, and then went out deep sea fishing, and I caught this huge big fish, and it was just another experience.
And this is why you kept travelling.
Yes, yeah. You never know what's around the corner, and it's all adventure. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And was there a point where you thought, I'm going to keep going for 5 years, or it just kept rolling out?
Just kept on going. And of course, in my blog, I put the days, so it's like day 1, and now it's like day 1,856 or something. I think actually it's 1,880 or something. I don't know. Yeah, so it just keeps going, and Australia's just the most amazing place. I mean, we love travelling overseas, and, there's some amazing places overseas too, but we really do need to look at our own country. And a lot of people will come back to me and say, oh, Rob, how do you find these places? And often you don't find them until you're in that town, and you talk to the locals, or you go to the information centre, and you find these remote places that are just not in the glossy tourist magazines.
No, and that's the whole point, isn't it? You don't want the ones in the glossy magazines. No. That's not you. You really like it.
I don't like tourists. It's not that I don't like them. I just like to be in those places where you feel like you're discovering the place for the first time.
Yeah, and you've got that exploring mindset. which is just wicked. Now tell me, is there anything that you've missed or that you miss with regard to, you know, a more conventional life of living in a house and having the, you know, the same, you know, local world?
Oh, look, I miss the wine industry a lot.
Right.
I don't miss the work. I miss the lifestyle.
Yeah.
You don't, like over the years I have lost a lot of friends, you know, you don't keep in contact as much with them anymore, or closer friends. So and also too, I've grown in a different direction. So they're often still doing the same things as what it was when I was at home, and I've moved on, so I don't have the same interests as what they have. So probably the downside is that, you know, it is hard to settle again and be in one spot. You get itchy feet very quickly. And, you know, when I was home for a couple of months over Christmas, you know, I went to a photography group and tried to meet new people in the town, because I've been away for so long. It's like everyone's still doing the same thing, but I'm different. Yeah.
And of course, in this time, you go home and see your kids and check in with the family, and then head off on travel again. Yeah.
So I probably see them more while I'm away, or talk to them more while I'm away than what I am at home. But
really,
it's typical. Yeah, it's still nice to see them. Yeah.
And your gorgeous dog, Porto.
He's very famous around Australia. That dog.
He's exquisite. And can I just let everyone know, this is not a guard dog looking dog. This is
he's a pretty boy.
And
he knows it.
I mean, he's walking around like he's got this luscious fur coat.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and up north, of course, the kids, they just think he's just amazing. So my dog is a Shetland sheepdog, or what they call a Sheltie.
Yeah.
And he's a very pretty boy, and he has an amazing coat, and it's like they've got a double coat, but his is quite amazing. So particularly up north, the kids, you know, those areas are so hot.
Yeah.
That they're used to having dogs with very, very short hair.
Yeah.
And he has long hair, and they just think he's just beautiful. I'm always getting kids coming up to me and saying, "Can we have a pat? Oh, he's so soft."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how important has it been for you to have your gorgeous Porto?
I don't think I could do this trip without him. Yeah, he's been my little rock. You know, and when you do get, you know, lonely or whatever, I talk to him.
Yeah.
People must think I'm crazy, but yeah, one day he'll talk to me back, you know.
I'm sure he does.
But he understands, yeah.
But it's just having this companion.
It is. It's really important. I think even, you know, for any age, I think it's always important to have someone, but, you know, and they don't argue with you. You know, you can make your decisions. And, you know, there's been times where I'll be travelling and I can change my mind 5 times in the one day and go 300 kilometres in the opposite direction I started off at the beginning of the morning. And why? Because I can. And I don't need to discuss with anybody. You know, he just goes with the flow. It's fine.
Do you think I mean, you know, you're a really playful person. You're very, very creative. You're very intelligent. You're very resourceful. You're a great conversationalist. But do you think that from this travelling you've become even more of a free spirit? Because, you know, you wake up in the morning, what will I do today? Where will I go? And obviously you have restraints at certain points, but do you think that that's happened? It's made you more off the grid in your actual head? Yeah,
most definitely, because when you're in suburban areas, or, you know, areas where there's towns and so forth, you do have, there's more rules. And it's. I hope you're a nudist.
I hope you're a nudist out there. Are you?
I am, actually.
Fantastic.
Yeah, actually, I went to a nudist camp on the way home before Christmas.
Did you?
And I met some wonderful people, and then they invited me back.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm going to have to get an all-over suntan. I might have to go to the chemist and get some cream, I think.
I think the whole point is not to be self-conscious about the body.
And it's really, like, I don't do much of it. But this one was in a caravan park. And
so it was a nudist caravan
park. Yeah.
Really?
And there's a lot of them around, I believe, which I wasn't aware of.
Never heard of it.
And it's
what
really
have I been doing with my time?
Wow. It's very strange to pull up the caravan and you've got clothes on, and then you've got to strip off and then step out that door.
So when you pulled up, did you know it was a nude? Did you know what you were signing up for?
Yeah, I wanted to just do something different.
That's wild.
So, yeah.
Were the admin and the staff naked?
Everyone is, yeah. They greet you at the door, at the gate.
Naked.
Naked.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it does. It's a beautiful feeling. Like even when you go on a beach or something, it is a nice feeling. Yeah.
So there was a beach attached, was there?
No, this was in the bush.
Ah.
Yes.
What was that like? Was it confronting? Was it scary?
It wasn't scary. It was a little bit confronting for me at first, because I'm by myself, and as I mentioned, getting undressed and then making that step out the door and start walking around, and you can be, obviously self-conscious of your body.
Yeah, we all are.
So it's another level of learning about yourself.
That's wild. Yeah. And how long did it take for you to desensitize and forget you were naked?
Well, everyone was just so wonderful, and so within minutes.
Minutes.
Yeah. So it was good. Yeah,
that's so cool. I've completely forgotten what we're talking about. Pardon?
They shouldn't have plastic seats in hot areas
because of sweating.
Yeah, take a towel.
Oh, that's funny.
Because you're glued to the seat.
There you go.
Yeah, because it was up North Queensland.
Really? So obviously warm weather is required.
Otherwise, I think so.
Oh,
I think so.
Well, you'd save on washing, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Well, you could just go nudist.
You just have cold showers, because it's hot.
I'm so distracted now. I do not even remember.
How did we get onto that conversation?
I don't even know. I don't even know. You were travelling and you just casually said, and I went to a nudist. And, then we were lost.
Yeah. I can't even remember what the original question was now.
Oh, that is just wild.
Yeah, but it's been amazing experiences. But I do love the top end. I've fallen in love with that. I did some work up in Kununurra.
Right.
And because I've been in the hospitality industry all my life,
yep.
I ended up getting a job at the Tourist Information Centre.
There you go.
And I just loved it.
Really?
Absolutely loved it. And I'm missing it, actually, as much as I thought, I may not go back. I think I will. And I've enjoyed the work because you're talking to other tourists. And because I'd done the Gid River Road before, and a lot of people are wanting to know information on that. So
you can speak with first-hand experience, which is
great. It helps them, and some people are more prepared than others. Yeah.
Can I ask you just before we head as well? What about the scary side with regard to when you're in a situation where there is crime, or there are community issues, and I imagine you're very streetwise, you're very cautious. Have there been times where that's been off-putting or very stressful, or you've felt unsafe?
You've got to be vigilant.
Yeah.
Working up in Kununurra, I did get a little monitoring. Well, it's not even a monitor, but it's to stop the fuel flow of the car, because they love cars up there to steal. So I did that to help prevent. So there's things that you can do to prevent things from happening and encouraging them to do that. And stealing obviously can be a big problem, as well as domestic violence and everything else. But in caravan parks, I certainly, at the visitor centre, we would tell people all the time, please don't leave your keys laying around. Please don't leave a fridge outside with alcohol in it and food, because it's going to go missing.
Don't leave your keys hanging in an obvious place.
Yeah. So hide them and keep everything locked up, And if everyone did that, then it would help the crime rate. Because they're not going to...
discouraging.
Yeah.
And I imagine your petrol is locked, is it? Your petrol...
My fuel, my diesel, and my spare drum, I have a padlock on it. I mean, if they really want it, it's like anything, the security's only as good as preventing the honest people, as they say.
But where you actually put your fuel, in the actual car itself...
mine's a self-locking one, so that's not a problem. But it's this little monitor thing. Just if they were to get the keys and go to steal the car, you put a code in, and so they will only get a couple of metres down because there's no fuel. It actually stops the accelerator. So it's not so much the fuel; it just stops the accelerator. So
that is so clever.
Helps. Yeah. So,
and peace of mind.
Yeah, it is peace of mind, actually. Yeah, wow. But you just keep everything locked up.
Yeah,
that's the
I love how sensible you are.
It's all about common sense, but some people don't. They leave it at home when they go on holidays.
Or they never had it.
Yeah.
All right, so to wrap up, can you tell me where to from here? It's okay if you don't know the answer, and I think I like not knowing, but do you have any sense of where you're going to go from here?
Yes, my plan is to go up to Cape York. So I haven't done Queensland yet, so in this 5.5 years I've been on the road, I've been through Queensland a couple of times because I went back to Kununurra to work. So I came home the Christmas before, and so I've seen a reasonable amount of Queensland. And when I left Alice, when I saw you, I went up to the Cape of Carpentaria and did that top pocket, which was amazing, and Burke and Wills and Lawn Hill and all that. It's just gorgeous. So this trip now is heading straight up to Cape York and then coming through and finishing the rest of Queensland. So hopefully I'll get it done by the end of the year.
Have you had any scary crocodile moments?
No.
Really?
I've got some good vision though.
You showed me. One
with a drone
coming out of the water.
Oh, that was amazing.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
But time-wise, do you have a sense this is going to go on and on and on and on? You can't imagine ending, or do you? I mean, do you have a sense of time?
No, I would go around again. It's
Really?
been so amazing, and I've learnt so much more. I'm more deeper into my photography now, so I could easily go around again. And some people you meet on the road, that's their full-time, thing. They've sold the house and they're just travelling. And some people have been around 14 times.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you could never ever see the. There's so much to see.
You can't see it all.
Yeah,
Australia's
it's
just
huge,
immense.
I've got a lot of friends overseas, and I have a map that I put Australia on top of Europe, and that gives people often a perspective of how big Australia is.
How much bigger is Australia than Europe, I wonder?
It's bigger.
Yeah. It's enormous.
Yeah, it's huge.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a great conversation, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you.
So, and everyone, if you want to jump on, we've got Facebook and Instagram, Kirsten Hunter Author, Twitter, Kirsten Hunter AU, and we've got TikTok.
Wow, something I'm not on.
Well, it's new. Anyway, pop the videos on there, and they're doing really well. So that's Dr. Kirsten Hunter. So thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Too much fun. We'll keep talking.
Yes.
See you, Doug.
Thank you.